this morning. And so if you want to go ahead and turn there, we're going to be looking at something that is a little controversial. Really something that, especially these days, in our society, that you're not going to hear much in some churches, and that you not hear much mostly in the common outdoor places, because people don't like to talk about it. And so we're going to talk about the coming deception that is coming, and that's Revelation chapter 13, and we're going to start in verse 11 in just a few minutes. But while you're going there, there's this lady who had flown, and she had a dog with her, and she had flown, and when she got off the plane and went to collect the dog in the baggage department, the baggage people realized, hey, look, the dog was dead. They say, oh man, this is bad. She'll sue us and everything else, and what we do here. So they told the lady that her dog had gotten misrouted, and they would deliver the dog to her house. And so she said, okay, that's fine. So they were like, man, what we gonna do? So they looked all over to find a dog that would look like her dog. And they finally found a dog, and they put that dog in the cage, and they delivered it to her house. They got there to her door, knocked on the door, and said, ma'am, we have your dog. She said, that's not my dog. My dog was dead. And I was shipping it home so I could bury it. You can't really fool somebody about their dog. They know their dog. They know the truth. And it's hard to deceive someone who knows the truth. And there's great deception that's going to come one day on this earth where people are going to be trying to deceive. Who is the true Jesus? Now, if we know the true Jesus, then you will know when you see a false Jesus, when you see an imposter. And there is coming to this earth in the future an imposter. He will be a substitute Jesus who will deceive the whole world. And the Bible is very clear about that. And he's coming. In Florida, somebody had put out a nativity scene. And when they did, it was a very expensive nativity scene, but somebody stole baby Jesus. So they went and bought another baby Jesus, put it out there. But the next year, they put it out again, and somebody stole baby Jesus. Well, the next year, they bought another one. Now, this was an expensive nativity scene. That new baby Jesus, by this time, cost them $1,800 to replace it. So they decided what they were going to do is they're going to put a tag inside so they could track it if somebody tried to steal baby Jesus again. So they tagged it with a tag, and well, it happened. Somebody stole baby Jesus. Well, they tracked it, and they finally found where baby Jesus was. And it was a girl, and she had all three baby Jesuses there. Well, that's not only happened there. There was another place in Kentucky where somebody put out their nativity, and somebody stole baby Jesus. Well, they then put out another one, and it was just one of these little plastic ones, and they had wrapped it with chain and chained it to a brick. Well, somebody stole baby Jesus, the chain, and the brick that it was wrapped to. There is a syndrome that is called stolen baby Jesus syndrome that people have. That they'll go around and steal baby Jesuses out of nativity scenes, either because they don't like nativity, or they just don't like Jesus, and they just have a syndrome that is called that. And you can Google it, the baby Jesus syndrome. Stolen baby Jesus syndrome is what's called. Don't Google it now, but you can Google it. But it's a syndrome that is out there. I'm glad that I know who Jesus is. Now, the problem is this one person had put in there in the newspaper, somebody stole baby Jesus. And can I tell you, Jesus has not been stolen. And if we know who he is, he's not stolen from us, is he? Now, what I want to give you this morning is some things that we know, some things that we have heard, and some things that we hope for. Those are basically my 3 points this morning. And look at verse number 11 through 18 of chapter 13 here, Revelation. It says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. Remember the first beast came up out of the sea? Remember, the sea represents basically in the Bible Gentile nations, and that was talking about the beast that was going to come up out of the sea, probably out of Gentile nation. This one comes up out of the earth, and basically the earth is the land. And the land usually has always been, anytime in the Bible you see earth, land, stuff like that, a lot of times it's associated with Israel. So there's a idea that maybe the false prophet could actually be somebody from Israel. And it could be somebody there. Or it could be somebody in that region. Okay? That's what many people believe could be. So that's why he says, come up out of the earth. And he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Now remember, we had one over here that spake, that was a dragon, who had 10 horns. This one only has 2 horns. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Look at 13. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, and the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, if it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, and that's 666, as we all know. Now, what is it that we know? Well, let me go through a few things that we know, or we should know by now. Is we know that someone will call, and we'll call him the Antichrist is coming. Even 1 John chapter 2, verse 18 tells us that this one is coming, who is the Antichrist. And so we know that's coming. The Antichrist will be given universal authority and adoration. Chapter 13, verse number 8, we already looked at. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain. He will be persecuted. He will persecute God's people. Look at verse number 7 of chapter 13. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And so he's going to cause war. He will be beheaded. They're going to be beheaded for their faith. Some of these that are killed. Look at Revelation chapter 20, verse number 4. These are some of the things, and I want you to understand some of this, because we're going to go somewhere that you may not have thought of, okay, later here. And he says, and I saw throne, chapter 20, verse number 4. And I saw thrones, and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus and for the word of God. So there's some that are going to be beheaded. Now, we do know there is a religion in the world that loves to behead. It's called Islam. And again, this is not a popular message. It's not a popular message. It's not what people want to hear. But as Islam loves to behead. And so I want you to realize those things. The Antichrist will make a peace covenant with the nation of Israel. We found that over in Daniel chapter 9, verse number 27. He will break that covenant halfway through 7 years of agreement. No 7 years. Halfway through, that's right in the middle. We call that the abomination of desolation. Jesus talked about that over also in Matthew chapter 24 and Mark chapter 13. We saw that. He is the first rider of the white horse. We saw that over in Revelation chapter 6, verse number 2. He's the first one to come on the scene. He's conquering and to conquer. And although he will bring peace, he will help sign a covenant with Israel. In the middle of that, he will break that covenant and literally bring havoc on the earth at that time. And that is this beast, Antichrist. The Antichrist will not be alone. He will have another counterpart. That's who we just read about in verse number 11. This is the religious counterpart. We see him again over in Revelation chapter 16. You see him again in Revelation chapter 19 and also in chapter number 20. Now, both of these counterparts are one day going to be cast into the lake of fire. Okay? That's going to happen. So this is the false prophet that's going to come. Again, it's possibly because he sees the beast come up out of the sea, which again I believe is Gentile nations, and that this false prophet's coming up out of the land. He is going to believe he could be an Israelite or one of Abraham's children, which would be a Muslim, most of them. And so he will rise up out of the earth. Now, that literally means the land. The land refers usually to the Holy Land or the land of Israel in the Bible, most of the time. So it could be Jewish. We don't know that for sure. That's just speculations. That's chemology. Okay?
I was wondering if he wouldn't be some connection to religion, being a false prophet.
Yeah, he's going to be connected to religion because that's going to be his main thing, is he's going to be religious. A lot of people believe he'll be the Pope at the time. So if this Pope dies and they elect a Jewish Pope, get ready. Okay? Get ready. I thought about the title of this message, put on Facebook. Hey, today we're going to talk about who is the greatest whore in Cartersville. And so that would get some people scared, maybe, that we put on there. We're going to name the greatest whore in Cartersville today. But that is what we are doing in one sense. This is the great whore. And some people believe it could be the Catholic Church. We don't know. Okay? So I'm not going to say that for sure. This beast has two horns like a lamb, though. I want you to think about that. He's able to speak with deception like the beast. So he's got great verbal skills and to persuade people. His authority will not be political. It's going to be spiritual. He doesn't have a crown. When a crown is on someone's head and on their horns, like we saw the beast, that's political. This one doesn't have a crown. And so therefore, this is going to be more of a religious person that's going to come on scene. His goal is to deceive the people of the earth by signs. We see that in verse number 13 and verse 14 of chapter 13. His primary incentive, though, is going to be the economy. It's going to be the economy. And you say, why do you believe that? Well, it talks about buying and selling. You can't do either. At this time, when he comes on the scene, there's going to be great devastation in the earth, especially when there comes food and famine. It's going to be great of that going on. The economy is going to be at a very low time when some of this comes about. I believe we see our economies going that direction. I'm not saying it's going to come today, but it could. All that's got to happen first is rapture, because we're not going to be here, those of us who are saved. We're premillennial, and believe the church is going to be raptured before the tribulation period. Okay, just letting you know, Mike. Your first visit, I'm letting you know where we stand. That way, you'll be able to follow us a little better. And I make no apologies for that either. So, but this is the primary incentive is the economy. The economy is extremely bad during the tribulation period, and billions of people possibly will have died because of this famine, because they can't buy food. And so because people are going to be very vulnerable at that time, they'll be willing to do almost anything to be able to feed their families. And when you come to a place you want to feed your family, you're almost willing to do anything. You'll fight to feed your family. You'll do whatever it takes. And he'll make it so that no one can buy or sell unless you have this specific mark. So a lot of people are going to take the mark because they won't feed their families. Many people have suggested that the Antichrist will rise from somewhere in Europe. Possibly. That's another thing. Because geographically, it contains what was the old Roman Empire. Now I want you to think about this. The idea of the Roman Empire came about because of the vision that Nebuchadnezzar had over in Daniel chapter 2 and verse number 31 to 47 in that area. Now the Roman Empire as we know it collapsed, but I want you to also understand that in AD 395 the Roman Empire split into two legs, therefore the two iron legs. And the splitting of that Roman Empire split into an eastern and a western branches. The capital of the eastern branch is what we know today as modern Istanbul, which lasted a lot longer than the western branch lasted. 90% of the Roman Empire at the time of Jesus, 60%. 60% of the Roman Empire at the time of Jesus is right now occupied by Islam. Is occupied by Islam. Now, Islam today is having revival as they never had before. Before September 11, 2001, it was estimated that 25,000 people in America converted to Islam a year. Since then, it's estimated that 100,000 converts to Islam in America every year. And by the year 2055, it's predicted that Islam will surpass Christianity as the world's most popular religion. They say that by the year 2025, half of the births in the world will be to Islamic families. So what does that continue to do? Produce Islamic children, who then have more Islamic children. And they just lowered the age when an Islamic child can get married in Iran to 9. They just did that this week. That at 9 years old, an Islamic girl can get married, become a bride. That happened this week. What's that do? Gives you more time to pop out more Islamic babies. I'm not trying to be ugly. I'm just trying to tell you this is what we see happening in our world right now. It's not popular. This is not a popular message. But this is what we know. Okay? This is what we know. Now I'm going to switch a little bit. I'm going to throw out a little chemology. What we call chemology is, I can't biblically tell you this is exactly what it is, but there's enough evidence to give us an insight to it's a possibility. Okay? That's chemology. And so what I want to give you out is what we've been told. You know, as we have an eschatology as Christians, and our eschatology, and I've always said that our eschatology determines our doctrine. Our doctrine is determined basically by eschatology. Our doctrine of God is determined by eschatology. If your eschatology is that of a Calvinist, you're going to be different than I am. I'm not Calvinist. But my eschatology is that of someone who is premill. And I believe that a person chooses to accept Christ on their own. That's their choice. I don't think God went through here and picked out a few, and you're going, you know, as I preached the message before, and I entitled, God never says go to hell. And God doesn't go, well, you get saved, and you get to heaven. You don't get saved, you get to go to hell. God doesn't do that. He died for all men. And that all men might be saved. And we have an eschatology. Islam has an eschatology. It's been coming out more and more recently, and you see a lot more about things in their eschatology. Eschatology is a branch of theology that concern the final events in history or the final events of the world of mankind. Christians know very little about Islamic eschatology, but we're learning more. Islam's view of Christians are this, and one of the names that Islam gives you as a Christian, which is one of the good names they call us, is that we are people of the book. They're talking about the Bible, the Old Testament, New Testament. But here's the problem. They believe that the book, the Old and New Testament, has been corrupted by the Jews and by Christians. So they don't hold true to it. So they hold the Quran as the only reliable source of revelation. The Quran, which are the direct words of Allah. They also do hold the Sunnah, which is the words and works of Muhammad, the prophet, as also true. Islam believes that end times will be ushered in by 3 great signs. Now I want you to think about some of these. They believe that there is going to be a person that comes on the scene that they call the Mahdi. It's Mahdi. Mahdi, something like that. I know it. If you've watched the new movie that sort of come out about, I know the name of the movie. It's one where the guy rides the worm. Rides that great big worm out in the desert. I know the name of it. Can't think of it. Tremors. That's it. Yeah, Tremors. But it's got another name, but that's it. They call him that in this movie. This Mahdi means Messiah. It's equivalent to the Messiah in them. It's the one, is the guided one. He will set up a new world order, an Islamic caliphate. This is civil, political, and spiritual when he sets this up. He will lead a revolution to establish Islam throughout the world. This is their Messiah. This is basically their Antichrist that comes on scene. He will lead this revolution throughout the world, and if Jews and Christians refuse to convert, they will be killed. Well, that's what it says here. This person that comes on the scene. They believe that this person will head up and be over, and this is in their eschatology, in their books, in their writings, that this person will head up the army of black flags. There's two armies right now that fly black flags. Islam and Iran have armies that fly black flags. On the flag is written one word called punishment. Punishment. Because that's what they're going to do. He will conquer Jerusalem and kill the Jews. We do know, according to what we've already read, there comes somebody who's going to come in and conquer Israel, and most of the Jews are going to die. The Islamic eschatology is so close to our eschatology, they just go by different names. He will make a peace agreement with the Jews and the West for how many years? 7 years. 7 years. This is their eschatology. He will come on a white horse to conquer. This is their eschatology. Almost like ours, isn't it? Just looks a little different. But here's the next thing that's a little different. In their eschatology, Jesus will come. To the Muslim, Jesus was just a man, but they do not believe that he actually died. At least not all the way. So therefore, if he never died, then there was no resurrection. If there's no resurrection, then there's no atonement for sin. They believe that he was spared crucifixion and ascended to heaven. And what they mean, spared crucifixion, that he did not die in crucifixion. And that he is up in heaven awaiting for Allah to send him back to the earth. Allah will send Jesus back to the earth to correct all Christians who have misunderstood who he is. And when he returns, he will return as a radical Muslim who will help the Mahdi establish Islam on the whole earth and abolish Christianity. There will be a time when they're going to have a meeting and they're going to ask Jesus to pray, and this is what they say in their writings, and they will ask Jesus to pray, but Jesus will say, I can't pray. And he'll step back and let the Mahdi pray, and therefore showing that the Mahdi is greater than Jesus. Does that make sense? He will stand behind him to show that. He will kill this person they call the Dajjal. It's D-A-J-J-A-L. Dajjal. Jalal, something like that. He will kill that person. That person is a person that befriends the Jews and tries to save them and be the saviors of the Jews. That's they're calling Antichrist, you know. And he will kill that person. Then Jesus is going to get married and have some children, and then he's going to die and get buried next to Muhammad. That's what they say. And that's all to show that Jesus was not really Jesus. They'll try to this Dajjal who will come, which is the Muslim version of the Antichrist. He'll try to kill the Mahdi, but Jesus will kill him instead and help the Mahdi rule the world. That could be two. Remember the two prophets that come up that we know, and we're going to read about later, that come and then they're killed and their heads are put on the fence post. That could be who Jesus is going to kill, one of them. And probably the Antichrist will kill the other one. And they're going to behead him. And they're going to put it there. Sounds a lot like what we believe. So, who's the great deceiver? Satan. So, does Satan know the Bible? Does Satan know that God is God? We already said that really the battle's not between Satan and God, because God doesn't have to battle Satan. All he's got to do is speak and it's won. God doesn't fight battle, he wins them. He speaks and it's won. The battle's between the angels, basically. It's what we've had all these years. God's involved, don't get me wrong. God's letting it play out the way he wants it to play out. And God is sovereign. I tell you how good and sovereign my God is. This week, I'm driving down the road, and I've been busy, and I've had a lot of jobs going, and I got this one job where I've got a rubber base that's got to go on the walls. I don't have to do that a lot, but these people want me to bring them some samples. That meant I was going to have to go to Home Depot, get some samples, take the samples over, let them figure out what they're doing. And I was just thinking in my mind, boy, I wish I didn't have to do that. 5 minutes later, the superintendent calls me, said, hey, you don't have to go get those samples. I found some that we got here at our office that they can look at, and you don't have to go. You know what my first thought was? God, thank you. He fulfilled a desire of my heart that I didn't even have to tell him about. And I saw that as, I did. I immediately said, God, thank you. I saw that as God's hand of helping me where I didn't have to go do that. And you say, oh, that's just circumstance. You can believe whatever you want. I believe that my God is sovereign. I believe my God cares for me. I believe he takes care of me, even in the little small things in my life, every day of my life. And that he allowed that guy to find those pieces to be able to take to them so they could choose, and they've already chose the color they want. So I don't have to get involved in that part. That's my God. And my God's a winner. And when I get to heaven, I'm going to have chicken dinner. So, winner, chicken dinner. And but the thing is, this Dajjal, this Messiah that they believe is the deceiver, is going to be, they say, is going to be this miracle worker. But their Mashada is going to be a false miracle worker. He'll claim to be Jesus and God and all these kind of things. And so this is what we see happening. Now, what's the difference? Let me give you some of the difference. The Bible's Antichrist is Islam's Savior. Does that make sense? Because the devil knows this is going to happen. So what he's done, he's called to Islam to believe it a different way. To see it from a different viewpoint. Just like dumb Democrats see everything from a different viewpoint than we do. I'm sorry. I'm supposed to be political, am I? The Bible's false prophet is Islam's Jesus Christ. The Bible's returning Christ is Islam's Antichrist. The Antichrist will do this. When he comes on the scene, he's going to change times and laws. In other words, Islam says that when the Mahdi comes, he will throw out all human constitutions and enact Sharia law. One day, the United States Constitution is going to be thrown out, and Sharia law will be intact. That's going to happen, folks. I hate to tell you that. I'm not going to be here. If you're saved, you won't be here either. And he will change all calendars to the Islamic calendar. Islam calendar is totally different than your calendar. And they're going to change time. Why? Our time is based on what? Christ. So they got to change it. They got to change the calendar. They're going to do everything they can to get rid of Christ. And they've been doing that for a long time. And Satan's had a long time to practice and get his cohorts and people all together. So we know what we know. This is what we've been told. This is what we hope. Look at verse number 8, chapter 13. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. There will be some who will resist the Antichrist. Their names are going to be written in the book of life. That's what it says. Names will be written in the book of life. Those who don't resist will cave in. God's plan since creation has always been to raise up Jesus for the redemption of the world. It's always redemption of the world. The book of life. My name's in it. I hope your name's in it. If we accepted Jesus Christ, then we can be assured that our name is in the book of life. Muslims do not have that certainty to go to heaven. They believe in a God that is a all-broad God, is what it's called. In other words, he's a God that can change his mind. He can change his mind at any time. The only way that a Muslim can know for sure that he will go to heaven when he dies is if he loses his life in the cause of jihad. That's in a battle. And it doesn't matter how he loses life. It's if he blows himself up. But if he is in a jihad fighting and he loses his life, then he is guaranteed heaven. That's why they're willing to fight to the death. Because that guarantees them heaven. Other than that, there's no guarantee because God changes his mind any time. So closing is this. There are Muslims around the world whose eyes are being opened as they see these relations of these things together, and they're coming to Christ. They say that in Africa, over the last few years, 6 million Muslims have come to know Christ. Even though there's a revival of Muslims going throughout the world, in some places in our country, there is not. And they say over the last years, there has been 6 million who have come to Christ. As the Quran and all are being read, they're beginning to see the face of this religion. And Muslims are not the enemy. Satan is. Muslims aren't our enemy. Satan is. The Muslim religion is our enemy. Don't get me wrong there. But the people who are trapped in that can be saved. They do believe in Jesus. They just believe he's a man. And so we fight a lie with truth. That's how you fight a lie, with truth. Now, if we can get President Trump to fight with policy and truth versus calling everybody names, we might have him as president one day. But here, we fight a lie with truth. When they're training people to recognize counterfeits, they don't show them counterfeits. They show them truth. And the reason I told you I'll never do a study of showing you all the different religions of the world, because I don't have time to show you all the religions of the world. But I can show you truth. And if I show you truth, you'll know a lie when you see it. And so my responsibility is to give you truth. Now, there's going to be times when I want to show you some things that are out there like I've done today. And there is a false Jesus that is coming. That's not the one we're looking for. We're looking for the upper call when we meet him in the clouds and we go to heaven. But the only way that happens is if your name is written in the book of life. And that's because you've accepted Jesus Christ as your personal Savior. And so the fact is, this is